This episode of Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source of games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source of Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with another episode of Playing on a Budget. This week I'm going to be taking a look at Pauper as a Playing on a Budget option. As Pauper, if anyone doesn't understand, I will explain exactly what Pauper is. Currently, it is only an MTGO supported format, but I'm starting to hear that a lot of people are starting to play Pauper in Paper Magic as well. So I thought I would play a Pauper deck that I find incredibly enjoyable and put my own little spin on it. This week, I'm not even going to go over prices because, like I said, everything in Pauper is a common. And I hope you enjoy this video. It's not a standard or modern match, but I thought I'd switch things up as Theros is still not legal on MTGO for a couple more weeks. And I'm going to be doing a special episode the following week on Playing on a Budget and my experience with budget decks and whatnot. But I thought I'd mix things up this week and just talk about a Pauper brew. I've also had a lot of people email me lately about Pauper, and I've never really played the format. I messed around with it probably about 6 months ago, and the format is getting a little more interesting now that they've banned Cloud Post. It'll take away a lot of those oppressive. They've done some bannings. I think the last time I played Pauper, the Storm decks, the Empty the Warrens, and Grape Shot decks were still around, and since then they've banned both those cards. And now they're actually going to ban the Cloud Post. Cloud Post was a very hard deck to beat with certain decks as well, as they just accelerate into a huge drop, and a lot of times you don't have the removal. See, Pauper is either incredibly aggressive, in fact, of just a bunch of being overwhelmed with a lot of 1/1 creatures or fast burn decks, or decks kind of like the one I'm showing you. And then on the flip side, it was fast in the essence of having Cloud Post decks being able to ramp into big creatures. So it was really hard to build a non-aggressive deck or non-combo deck that didn't kill within a couple of turns. And I think with the banning of Storm and now the banning of the Cloud Post decks, it opens up the format to a lot more different archetypes. And although I'm just playing a traditional archetype that has worked in the past, I think that we're going to be able to see more like Grixis decks or control decks or even discard decks in the future with the banning of Cloud Post. So anyway, without further ado, let me go over this deck. You might have seen this in a standard deck that I brewed before, the Nivix Cyclops. It is really good in Pauper because there are so many good cards from clear back in the day that make this card incredibly good. This was it before Nivix Cyclops came out. There was a We Dragonauts deck. We Dragonauts is the exact same mana cost as Nivix Cyclops, but it's just I believe a 1/3 flyer that only gets +2/+0 when you cast an instant or sorcery spell. So Nivix Cyclops is a bit more powerful. It is a 1/4 body that can withstand lightning bolts, and it gets +3/+0 whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. So this deck is basically be composed of a ton of instants or sorcery spells. The next best creature in the deck is Kiln Fiend, which again, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +3/+0. But it is more prone to dying to cards like Firebolt and Lightning Bolt. So I've also included 2 of Delvers. Some people include a 4 of, but I thought 10 creatures was the right package. Again, I haven't messed around too much with Pauper, so this deck is definitely subject to change. But I decided to add a few twists and turns here in this deck. Some of my own favorite cards. I've scoured the cards from old school cards like from Tempest here with Shadow Rift, and even like Fist of the Anvil and other cards like that. I've decided to include in this deck to see how they work. So I'm not sure if how they work. The traditional route is just using like all Artful Dodges and Lightning Bolts. I mean, the traditional list is the Artful Dodges, the Apostle Blessings, the Lightning Bolts, and then cards like Ponder, Preordain, and Gitaxian Probe. And again, they usually use more creatures, a few more Delver Seekers, but I thought I'd switch this up and play some more interesting cards, one of which is Reckless Charge. I don't know why this hasn't been included, because the haste is very, very relevant in this format, because you could go, a lot of times you'll get stalled out by counterspell decks or control decks, and when they tap out on their turn for whatever reason, if you have some mana open, you could go Reckless Charge into you play your Kiln Fiend that turn, Reckless Charge. It is now it would be 3, 6, 7, and then like an Assault Strobe, and then it'll go up to a 10, and you're swinging for lethal for 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So you could do like a 4th turn kill with nothing on board, and maybe even a 5th turn kill with like Apostle's Blessing is another way you could do it. And Reckless Charge is your haste ability to give your Cyclops or your Kiln Fiend haste on that turn and swing in for perfect lethal. So I'm definitely including the Reckless Charge. I think it's the best. There's a ton of cards in the format that give a creature haste. Accelerate's kind of cool because you can actually cantrip off of it. You can draw a card, but I don't know if you'll have the mana to support that. So this is why Accelerate's in my sideboard. I'm going to test it out, see how well it works, and then just replace it with either another Reckless Charge or something else if it does not work. So that is my little inclusion there. And then Shadow Rift seems too good not to play as well. It's a cantrip type card. You could actually use it, target creature gains Shadow till end turn. You could actually use that on your opponent just to draw a card if you need to find that one of your 10 creatures. And again, it works perfectly with these other cantrips. You have Preordains, Ponders. They set up Delver's Secrets really well, and then Gitaxian Probes. So you're just trying to go through your deck as quickly as possible to set up those combo pieces and then swing in for that 1-turn kill. So of course, Artful Dodge is great in this deck because what it allows is 6 damage a lot of times off of one card. With, if you pair it with a Cyclops or a Kiln Fiend, or if you have both of these out, both of these are going to be, you're going to get 6 damage and 2 unblockable creatures. Assault Strobe, of course, is just very efficient because on a Kiln Fiend, it's given basically 6 damage, or a Nivix Cyclops is 6 damage as well. Delver's Secrets, it of course will give double strike if you Fist of the Anvil on a Delver's Secrets. That's going to be 14 damage paired with an Assault Strobe. So Fist of the Anvil I decided to include because we do have the +3/+3, but I'm thinking of +4/+0. It's the most amount of just actual power you can put on a creature in the format for only 2 mana, and it works good with Delver's Secrets. Like a lot of these Apostle Blessings not going to pump up the Delver's Secrets. The Reckless Charge will, and maybe that is a better... Again, I'm just testing out this Fist of the Anvil, but a lot of times you want to hit perfectly for 10, and it's easy to get these guys up to 9 with getting, casting 2 creatures. They're up to... well, I guess 10 is just as easy, but Fist of the Anvil allows you to get it up perfect a lot of times into that 10 range to hit for the double strike and hit him for 20 damage. So I thought I'd include one Fist of the Anvil to see how it works. Then we have, as far as protecting your guy, Apostle's Blessings is probably the best one. You do have Mizium Mortars, but again, you're down to 18 lands. A lot of times you won't have the extra blue or red. You've already spent the blue on the Artful Dodge or the red on something else, and you'll have one of the other ones open, and you won't be able to cast the Mizium Skin. So Apostle's Blessing is just a lot more versatile. You won't have to spend particular red or blue mana. It can be either or. And then it gives your guy protection from the color of your choice, so it protects against Lightning Bolt. One of the problems I have found in this deck is it is a little vulnerable to sack spells, and that's why in the sideboard we have a lot of cards to combat that sack spells. We've got a Dispel to counter an instant spell. Most of the sack ones are instances. And then I love Disrupt. Disrupt, a lot of times, 1 mana and drawing a card is the difference between winning and losing a lot. It will be on my turn, I Artful Dodge, swing in for right now at 4 damage with the Nivix Cyclops, and then what happens is they try to make me sack it, and then you disrupt it. They're usually tapping out for that sack spell. You disrupt it, and you get a cantrip that card, and sometimes find like that Lightning Bolt or it wouldn't be Gitaxian Probe, but something else too. Then pump up your dude for the perfect amount of damage to kill. So I'm liking Disrupt. In testing, it's worked very well. Dispel's your better alternative if you're worried about heavy control decks that they'll have more than 1 mana. And then I've also got a Confound, which is kind of cool. I'm testing this out as a counter target spell that targets 1 or more creatures, and then you get a draw card. Sometimes this deck just works as a tempo deck. Sometimes you just need to beat them down little by little each turn, 4 damage here, 4 damage there, and just get in there for the win. So I thought a Fling would be too good not to include as well. And most decks, they use Echoing Ruin, but I think Fury Charm is against the Artifact deck. Artifact is a archetype that is very popular as well. There's an ATOG deck running around in Pauper. So I thought that Fury Charm, yeah, you don't get to kill multiple artifacts, but you still can destroy that artifact, that problematic artifact, or if for whatever reason in that matchup you don't need to destroy anything, you can give your dude +1/+1 and trample until end of turn, which is really, really pertinent because it's almost like a pseudo unblockable. They can't chump it with a 1/1, and then it'll actually pump it up +4/+1 and trample on a Kiln Fiend or a Cyclops. And maybe that is the difference between winning or losing. Again, I'm testing this out. I'm testing the versatility out of Fury Charm. If I don't like it, I'll go back to Echoing Ruin. And then Fling, of course, is just crazy with the combo, as you can like Nivix Cyclops and then Reckless Charge it, and you're up to 9 damage. And it's kind of like another Assault Strobe. But the cool thing about Fling is you don't actually even have to connect. Say they've got ways to kill your creature in response, or they have chump blockers, you don't have the Artful Dodge. You can instead just pump your guy up a ton and then just fling it at them. So again, I don't know how well this card's going to work. Definitely testing that out. I've got Coastal Watchers because mono green is a huge, either mono green elves or mono green just beats is I guess mono green stomp is a definite problem for this deck, as they're very, very fast. And I thought Coastal Watcher can be either a kill condition that survives everything that they throw at you, or it can help stall until you can set up your combo to kill them. So I'm including those. You also have the options to protect from red card if you're worried about burn or goblins. Again, Pauper is very wide open format right now, and it's only going to get more wide open with the banning of Cloudpost. And it's a budget. Pauper was made for budget. Everything in this is commons. The only thing let me explain Pauper. Pauper, you can only play cards that have been printed as a common. If they're an uncommon, like say Doomblade is reprinted as an uncommon, it's still legal in Pauper because at one point it was a common. So that is the only stipulation, is it had to be a common somewhere ever printed in Magic the Gathering history. There are some banned. You definitely have to check out the ban list, but other than that, that's really the only stipulations, only rules to playing Paupers. It has to be a common. So everything in here is commons. It's going to be, this deck's probably going to cost you on MTGO around 20 tickets, probably less than that because I've got rid of. There are some expensive commons on MTGO, like Serrated Arrows can be quite pricey, or the Snap, or some of those legacy commons that are played in Pauper as well. I think Cloud of Fairies is getting a little bit pricey. So there definitely are some pricey cards in Pauper, but I mean, you're looking at like 5-6 tickets and nothing more than that. And you definitely can make entire decks for around like $5. And in Paper Magic, it's probably even easier because commons in Paper Magic have a very hard time of ever being expensive. So all these cards are just so easy to pick up in Paper Magic. So if you are just starting out as a player and you want a competitive deck in a competitive format but don't have the cash to buy one, Pauper might be a format you enjoy. It is very fast, but it has a lot of interaction, especially with now the banning of Cloudpost and the Storm decks. And I think within a couple of years, this is going to be a very, very fun and wide open format. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. I'll play some games here. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.